the Spirit Sessions podcast. I'm your guide, Katie Silcox, bringing you your weekly self-love soundbite. Join us, where I'll help you find your true spiritual home, where every single aspect of you is holy ground, holy ground, holy ground, holy ground.
This is a Spirit Session podcast with Katie Silcox. Venga chicos, empezamos.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hi everyone, Katie here. This podcast is intended to inspire you, educate you, and most importantly, support you on your journey towards knowing who you really are, that inner self, that inner teacher. I am not a psychologist or a medical doctor and do not offer professional health or medical advice on this podcast. If you are suffering from any kind of psychological or medical issue, please do the right thing and seek help from your qualified health professional. Hello out there in podcast land. It's your girl, Katie. Listen, I am sitting outside in Virginia. It is a beautiful, epic Saturday in spring. The wind is blowing, the chimes are chiming, and nature is just like showing her truest beauty right now. And I want to be out here. And I hope that the sounds add to you being able to feel that this is not a super produced podcast. This is me sitting out in my backyard talking to you about things that I think are helpful, hopefully, and can add some goodness to the world. And all that is a big preamble to say that I don't have my podcast mic. Hi, Eva. She's going to be pissed. Eva's my production manager. She's actually not going to be pissed. She's going to be fine. But I wanted to do the podcast anyways, as my mic is charging and unavailable, because I've been geeking out all morning about a specific topic, and I want to bring it to you while it's hot and fresh in my mind and in my body. And, you know, it's my intention over the next year and season of this podcast, Spirit Sessions, to really bring you guys more of me in the sense of more of what I feel and think about things, and just really wanting to be more and more and more authentic with you all. And I've always been very authentic with you all, but I really feel like a calling to begin to bring you even more topics that feel topical and important and relevant to me and to my friends and to the women in my life and the men in my life, and to just speak from the heart, to be totally honest. And so today's podcast is kind of a movement towards that. I want to talk today about Ozempic because it's been talked about a lot, and yet I don't think it's been talked about as much from what I've seen from an Ayurvedic perspective. And I've avoided talking about it, even though I've had multiple students ask me to speak about it in class as well as to do a podcast about it, because everyone's talking about it and many, many people are using it. And I've avoided talking about it precisely because, like many of you, I don't like hurting people's feelings. You know, I want people to feel the energy that I bring into this community, whether it be Ayurveda school or this podcast or our Instagram or whatever it is that I'm currently involved in, to really feel our intention. And our intention is to create a really non-judgmental place, you know, to look at others through the eyes of Christ, through the eyes of love, through the eyes of goodness, and to really hold people in that. And, you know, I use the word Christ intentionally. It's like an energy of so much love and so much forgiveness and so much non-judgmental awareness. That's just like my goal, right? But within that greater field of consciousness of, in the tradition, it's called Shiva, right? There is discernment. And one of the most important parts of spiritual life is spiritual discernment, and everything is spiritual. And so what we put in our body is an act of spiritual discernment. And so we can bring all the love and non-judgmentality and light into the world as we want. And we do experience consequences for our actions. I do, and so do you, and everyone does. And so on the topic of Ozempic, I've kind of held my tongue a little bit because honestly, I have some friends that are on it or who have gone on it. There are some celebrities in the world that I love that have chosen to go on it. And I have the exact same feeling about Botox and getting, quote, work done. And that is, whoever's out there getting Botox and work done, like, I feel absolutely no judgment towards, because I get it. My beautiful goddess lips are not as plump and juicy as they were when I was 24 or 34, so like I am 100% understanding the real desire to look beautiful for as long as possible. And so I hope I'm doing a good job at starting this podcast off by saying, if you're out there listening and you're taking Ozempic, this is absolutely a non-judgmental zone, and that's how we roll at the Shakti School. I feel the same way about a woman's decision to choose for whatever she does in her life, right? And to hold those women and their choices in a lot of love, as so many elder women have held me in so much love and non-judgment when I've made some choices in my life that I look back on and think, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. And there were consequences. So Ozempic is one of those things. I also want to say that in true spiritual Ayurveda, there is no judgment. There's only outcome and consequences, right? There is karma. There is an after effect from the choices that we make. And some of those are really cut and dry, and we can see those things. And some of them come from lifetimes in our past, right? So there are people for whom taking Ozempic over a period of time can be life-changing and can actually help people a lot. People who are morbidly obese, from the research that I've done, it seems that the benefits can outweigh the downsides when it comes to people whose health is in dire need of weight loss for their life to continue, right? And so in that way, I think Ozempic can actually help people who are really far down the path of obesity, which is an absolute health concern. It is. And so who am I and who are we to judge those people who may use this Western medical development and have positive outcomes? And there are many stories of people for whom this has been true. And I just want to start the podcast off by saying, yay, I celebrate you if you have chosen to use it and you've seen positive results. But what I think often happens is that you may initially see positive results. Maybe that's like a pharmaceutical drug, right? You might take a pharmaceutical to get you out of a deep, dark period of depression. And it might be that little period that helps you avoid a greater dire consequence. But over time, no pharmaceutical drug is going to get to the root cause of the imbalance. And I stand behind that, and I will stand behind that. I hope till the day I die. No pharmaceutical drug is going to get to the root cause of our imbalances. And that's where we start from an Ayurvedic perspective. And we can enter into this conversation around Ozempic without that sense of judgment and making people bad or wrong or putting them in a paradigm where they're going to feel punished. So let's start from there. There are reports and clinical trials of the common side effects of Ozempic that are gnarly, and they include nausea and vomiting and lots of other unfortunate digestive consequences. There are neurological and psychological effects of taking it. People report vision issues and even emotional dullness. The rapid weight loss that people can have with Ozempic, it can lead to a loss of their muscle tissue and including also their bone density. And so, we want to watch with osteoporosis if you are taking Ozempic. I had a friend take it for, I think, 6 weeks, and she said, I'm glad I did it. It helped me get through a block, but I'm not going to do it anymore because I lost muscle tone. And so we just want to hold that truth, right? Muscle in Ayurveda, we do not measure our youth by our age. In Ayurveda, we measure our youth by our muscle. Isn't that amazing? So it's so important, especially for women after the age of 40, to gain muscle tone, to keep your muscles strong, to do weightlifting 3 to 5 times a week. This is our youth. And so just know Ozempic is going to reduce not only your fat tissue, but your muscle tissue. And that is your youth. Other big risks with this drug: gallbladder issues, gallstones, pancreatitis, kidney injury, thyroid tumors. There have been studies that show that use of it in animal studies have increased thyroid C-cell tumors. And what's so challenging and tragic about this is that so many of the people that choose to take Ozempic are already hypothyroid, meaning their thyroid isn't working as well as it should be. And the drug increases hypothyroidism. So something to be aware of. And many report that after they stop using Ozempic, they gain weight back. And some report up to 2/3 of the lost weight coming back within a year of stopping the medication. And if you want to go on Google or ChatGPT, you can do your own research around the health side effects of it. Today, I'm not here to talk about this necessarily, although I did want to mention it because there are many other much smarter people than me in the field of Western medicine who understand this drug. But what I do feel qualified to speak of and to add to the conversation, which I think is important and nuanced and not being spoken of, is the deeper root cause and how Ozempic actually affects this root mother medicine called Ayurveda. From an Ayurvedic perspective, Ozempic does not touch the root cause. And in fact, it can violate a few of the most important holistic metabolic health principles in Ayurveda and can deeply affect our constitutional balance, otherwise known as our Prakriti and our Vikriti, to be more specific. So what happens from an Ayurvedic perspective when we take Ozempic? Well, we reduce our Agni. Agni is the cornerstone of Ayurvedic medicine. Agni is your vital metabolism. And what Ozempic does is it artificially suppresses your appetite. And then people don't want to eat, and it's quite magical. But in Ayurveda, your appetite isn't problematic. Your appetite is wonderful. We want you to have a strong appetite. We want you to have a strong digestive fire. But what has happened is that we have actually messed up the internal Jatara Agni, right? Our ability to digest food. And so we have cravings, which is not the same as Agni. Agni is the natural, intelligent fire in the belly, right? That awakens this desire to live. Agni is your innate desire, your passion, your red energy, your first chakra. It is the energy that wakes up all the other systems. And on a subtle level, our Agni is our longing to stay and be alive. It's our vitality, our radiance, our passion. It's that oomph. It's that get up and go. It's that drive and ambition that makes us want to be here. So Ozempic is going to dampen that physically, and the mind and the body are not connected. They're together. They're unified. And so when we dampen that, we are going to naturally dampen our Agni, our vital life force energy that metabolizes what we eat. And that in turn will weaken our digestive enzymes and our bile flow. And that in turn is going to lead to the next central premise of Ayurvedic medicine, which is Ama, which is that which Agni, the metabolic fire, cannot digest, turns into toxic sludge. And that shit is hard to get rid of, trust me. I'm not someone that was born with naturally great Agni. And I've had to work and still have to work to keep that alive. So the ama, guess what? It's a vicious cycle, because the more ama we have, the more Agni goes down and it gets dampened. And the more it gets dampened, the more ama we have. And the more that happens, the more Agni gets dampened. And so you see, you have to break this toxic cycle, because that can lead to metabolic weakness despite an initial, quote, weight loss. Are we losing weight, or are we simply dampening the metabolic fire, which over time is going to either make us addicted to this weight loss drug, or what's more likely, it's going to damage our metabolism over time? Something like a GLP-1 and an Ozempic drug, it tends to push the body into what we would call a vata-kapha imbalance. So vata is increased when we fast, when we don't eat enough, when we have nutrient deficiency. Telltale signs are anxiety, constipation, skin dryness, vaginal dryness, irregular digestion, constipation that then leads to diarrhea, spaciness, lightheadedness. All of these things are vata. And when you take Ozempic, you're going to have more vata. No question. And then vata derangement can push, we call it vata pushing kapha, can cause kapha to become out of balance. And so while you might look like you're losing weight, your vata is increasing, which can cause kapha to build in terms of sluggish digestion and the buildup of ama, which we can also think of as mucus buildup. And that can manifest as vata, gas, bloating, things like that. And then kapha, like heaviness, sluggishness, aversion to food, lethargy, even depression. If you let this go on long enough, you might have long-term vata issues, fatigue, lack of fertility, lack of sexual desire, and overall, the third principle of Ayurveda, the lack of ojas, which is our subtle and overt immunity, vitality, deep nourishment. So it's funny, when you cleanse in Ayurveda, which I'm really excited to be going on a cleanse next month. I'm going to surely share all of it with you all when I get back. But when you cleanse in Ayurveda, your body needs to feel that everything is cool. Not cool like as in cold, but like chill. Body needs to feel like everything's warm and cozy and cuddly and wet and unctuous. And so the first thing you do when you cleanse in Ayurveda is you start taking fat. It's like the exact opposite of Ozempic. You start eating ghee, right? You start getting your diet to be a little lighter, but it's still warm. It's cooked foods. It's hot teas. It's spices. It's triphala, right? To get things moving. And when we just take a drug like Ozempic, it really diminishes ojas, because ojas isn't just physical immunity. It's also psycho-emotional sap. We call it rasa. Rasa is the feeling of juice, of that life has juiciness, meaning, pleasure, that we take pleasure and sensual enjoyment in our food, in our friendships, and in our relationships, and in our life. And when we take a drug like Ozempic, it just shuts down rasa completely. And that disconnects us from the emotional, spiritual wisdom of our hunger. Your hunger impulse, that little growl in your belly in our tradition, is a sacred, holy energy. That's why it's good to feel hungry every now and then. It's good to intermittently fast, because you get to feel the growl in your belly. And that growl is, in this tradition, a sacred energy. Got it? Isn't that beautiful? So we don't have to take Ozempic to be in disharmony with our Agni, right? Taking a drug like Ozempic hijacks our natural body's intelligence. It's called pranya parada. Pranya parada is a really cool word. It means a mistake of the intellect. It's when we let our ego And it doesn't mean you're bad. If you're listening out there, we do it all the time. We're confused beings. We all do it, right? But it's where we let our egoic intelligence supersede our innate wisdom. And so taking a drug that suppresses hunger rather than healing the root of the metabolic imbalance, which is a mixture of just your personal mind-body type and your Agni, your metabolic profile, plus usually emotional, mental cause. In Ayurveda, all diseases are traced back to the digestive system, which can also trace deeper into the nervous system. And when we speak about the nervous system, what we're speaking about is reactivity and memory and storage. And so when we say all imbalances come from an emotional root, what we don't mean is that you not being emotionally wise has caused your disease. I don't want anyone out there listening to think, oh man, I got cancer, or I got hypothyroidism, or I got X, Y, or Z, and it's because I'm bad and I did things wrong and my emotions I effed up, right? No, it's not that simple, because this is Tantra, right? And often the things where we've gone off track are the very things that bring us back home. But emotion root, and they're often almost always unconscious roots, are often these karmic bonds and ties at the root of weight issues. Ayurveda teaches us to listen and befriend the body, not abuse it, not silence it, and also not placate, cajole, and coddle it. When we take something like Ozempic, it ignores the important, vital role of rasa, your emotional nourishment. Eating is a sacred act of connection with God in Ayurveda. It connects us to the earth, to the senses. It's almost a sexual act in the sense that you are taking something outside of you that's not you, and you are putting it into you, and it becomes you. It's holy ground. So if we superficially instigate an aversion to food, which is what Ozempic does technically, we are going to rip the rasa out of life. Joyless meals. Loneliness and detachment from the sacred feminine principle of receiving and digesting, because here's the deal. Food issues, if you've got them, and I don't know a lot of women who don't. Food issues are feminine issues. Food issues are divine mother issues. Food issues are divine feminine protection issues. We could say they're mother issues. And I want to talk about that. So in Ayurveda, we are not afraid of talking about fat. We do not see fat as bad. We do not see people who have more fat tissue as unbeautiful. In Ayurveda, there are people with more fat tissue. And we say, yay, look at that kapha dosha. It's celebrated. In fact, I don't know if I've told you guys this story, but when I was living in India, I was a skinny, very skinny blonde girl because I had lost a lot of weight. I'd gotten really bad dysentery in the Himalaya. I think I almost died, actually. And I looked up at the ceiling of the hostel where I was staying, and I saw this disgusting stain, a water stain on the roof of the room I was dying in. And I looked up at that stain, and I was on all these drugs they gave me in India for the dysentery. I was on all these Western pharmaceuticals, and I'd never have taken many Western, well, as an adult, I hadn't taken many Western meds. I'd taken plenty as a child. But I looked up at this stain, and now I know that I was hallucinating from these drugs. And I looked up the stain, and the stain spoke to me, and it said, "You cannot die here. Your mother will not be happy about this." And then it was like, I got better after that. I kind of had a spiritual experience of almost dying in India and a water stain speaking to me. So my point with all that is that in Ayurveda, we don't see things the way we do in the West. And so I was really, really skinny after this dysentery. And I was walking around, I think I was in Chennai in a shopping mall. And I don't know how it is in India now. This was probably, I don't know, 15 years ago. But I was in a shopping mall, very westernized. And side note, that's kind of funny, I was wearing like what's called shalwar kameez. It's like a traditional thing women wear in India. It's like a long tunic with some little pants, and you know, your shoulders are very much covered down to your elbows. And I was looking very appropriate as an Indian woman. And I'm like one of the only white people. It was not a touristy part. You know, Chennai is not a big tourist zone in India. And I'm walking around this mall, which what could be more from where I'm from, you know, 1980s American girl. And every other young Indian person was wearing blue jeans and t-shirts. All the women were wearing blue jeans and t-shirts, and all the men, right? And so it was kind of a funny cultural experience. And another interesting thing about mall, and I know I'm diverting, but this is super fun. I know you're loving this because it's like so fun to think of these things. So in India, in the mall, you know, malls already were like not cool by the time I got to India. But in India, they were like really cool, and everybody wanted to go to the mall. And so the Indians, young people, would go to the mall, and inside the mall, there would be all these like cool, hip chain fast food places. And, you know, I mean, that wasn't cool to me. Like, we didn't want to eat at McDonald's. We wanted to, like, you know, take wheatgrass shots and eat dal and stuff, right? But these people were, like, stoked about the new cultural developments, right? As they should be. And so it was a Subway, you guys. And the Subway in the mall in Chennai was packed to the brim. I mean, I've never seen anything like this in the United States, even in a busy city. I've never seen anything like this. The Subway was like bumping. It might as well have been like a discotheque, full of young people, vibrant, laughter, awesome vibes, right? And I walk in with a friend in our shalwar kameez, and the whole restaurant turns their heads to look at us. These two white girls in their shalwar kameez, these two Americans, and here they are in their cool like Gap and Gucci and all their clothes, right? So there was no room to sit. So what did we do? Very polite, two young Indian men scooted over and let us sit in the booth with them. Now, how sweet is that? So cute, right? And so lovely. Indian culture. I love you. I love you so much. So polite. And I'm doing the little head wobble, which the Indians do, right? And they did the head wobble, and we sat down, and of course they were young, interested Indian chaps, educated young men, and they were asking us all these questions, and they were very polite, by the way, and very curious, which is not always the case. And we talked to them, and they talked to us, and we shared our cultures, and it was a very lovely and respectful experience over our Subway sandwiches. And at the end, I don't remember how this comment came to be, but I can only tell you that it wasn't out of left field. It was like a blunt comment, but it wasn't coming out of nowhere. There was like a context for it, and I just can't remember what it was. But the comment that young Indian chap made to me was, well, and I'll never forget this, well, actually, madam, we find you quite thin and pale. You are not the beauty standard in our country. And he pointed to this billboard advertisement in the Subway of the woman that they find to be the current ideal du jour in India. And she was traditionally what in Ayurveda we call kapha, right? Round face, soft features, smooth skin, milky complexion, a larger body frame, and have more medas. Medas. M-E-D-A-S. That is the name for fat tissue in India, in Indian medicine. And so I share that story with you. I have no judgment around it. I love it. It's a great story because it breaks the matrix. It breaks our perspective of what we hold to be worthy and valuable and healthy and beautiful. So if we can enter into the conversation from that place of curiosity and non-judgment and take away the emotional reactivity around fat, the word, we're left with what the tradition calls metastatu, the layer of bodily tissue known as adipose tissue, fat tissue. And in Ayurveda, your fat is made from muscle tissue, and it then goes on to nourish and create your bone. Isn't that amazing? So I wish Western medicine knew this. I mean, everything's connected. And in level 1 Ayurveda school, you should join, because we teach you how an apple goes from being an apple to being your most subtle tissue layer, which is your sexual tissue, which is your fertility and your cerebrospinal fluids. It's super cool. So y'all, join level 1. If you're not in, you really are missing out. So I'll say more about that in a second. But your muscle makes your fat. And then your fat makes your bone. And then your bone has a layer inside of it called bone marrow. And that's a really important part of your longevity and your immunity and your ability to regenerate. But guys, this is where I'm just stoked to talk about Ozempic, because fat in Ayurveda made us is so much more than just what we Westerners think of like fat. And maybe we understand its utility as like the thermodynamics of needing fat and the stabilizing agent physically of fat and the energetic potential of fat. We might even understand that level, which is good. But we don't understand the emotional, psychological, and spiritual level of fat. Ayurveda understands that fat just is not your insulation, your protection, your lubrication, your energy reserve, but it is a storage container of emotional memory. And so if there's one thing that you get from this podcast, let it be this: your fat holds your emotions. Your fat in specific holds your emotional memories and the ancestral stories that haven't been metabolized. They're still there. They're held. Fat holds your lineage. Isn't that amazing, you guys? Is your mind blown? Mine is. I feel like I could meditate on that for the rest of my life. Think about your mom's fat cells and your grandmother, right? And often it travels more heavily in the female lineage. Women by nature hold more fat. Men by nature hold more muscle. The fat is also associated with the Divine Mother energy. It's a soft, buttery, loving, buffering layer between the world and you and your most vulnerable self. And I will stand by this till the day I die, my sisters. People who have excess fat are usually some of the most spiritually soft, beautiful, tender, sensitive, brilliant, poetic, delicate badasses on the planet. And I include myself in that list. I do. I've struggled with my weight my whole life. I put on weight really easily. And food is my lover. I've struggled with food addiction my whole life. So I'm not like some skinny white girl talking to you. No. I am like team fat girl. I identify as a fat girl through and through. And often it's that way in which we may have not felt like we got enough mothering and tenderness and doting. You know, like your mama's here, she's making you soup, she's holding you, she's cuddling you, she's telling you how great you are. I'll love you no matter what you do. I don't love you for what you do. I love you for who you are, and nothing can change that. That's Divine Mother, and she is a protector. And if you grew up maybe not feeling like you got enough of that, often we'll put on an extra layer of fat to feel it. Oh, girl, I know some of you out there, you're in your car and the tears are coming. I can feel you. That's it. Right? And so spiritually, we can think from, like, if we wanted to spin it in a really positive way, fat protects the soul from overwhelm. That makes me cry. But it doesn't. Maybe it does initially, and maybe it did when we were little because we didn't have a lot of tools or resources, but there comes a moment in everyone's life, and men, by the way, do this too. There are plenty of men out there with a lot of meda, statu, excess, for sure. And those men are usually the most sweet, sensitive, beautiful creatures on the planet. But the protection, it doesn't really protect the soul, does it? It makes you feel a false sense of being cushioned and safe and protected, and it actually hides your real self from the world. It insulates your sensitive, emotional, and psychic body. And so we see this a lot in people that are highly empathic and in people that have undergone a lot of trauma that just hasn't been processed. Made us in all of us, in everyone, can become a storage space for unfelt grief, suppressed shame or guilt, childhood wounding. A lot of times it happens with people who've had a history of sexual abuse in their lives or in their family lineage, generational trauma. And we also see it in people who in the past there may have been what are called scarcity patterns. So like there actually wasn't enough food. And that's rare in modern culture of the West. But we carry those lines, people from the Irish potato famine or people from some of the African nations that have a direct experience of hunger and poverty and scarcity for actual food and fat. So that may be some of you listening, not maybe in your direct life, but in your lineage. And remember, fat stores the ancestral lineage's unprocessed emotions. Fat is kapha. It's cool, moist, heavy, stabilizing. It grounds us. It connects us to the earth plane and the slowness and the softness and the yin. And that's why when we eat or crave too much unhealthy fat, it can be a sign of disconnection from earth energy. And so breathing in and down and doing these grounding practices that we really, those of you in Shakti school know, we do grounding every time, at least with me as the teacher. So let's end on a positive. When we have the right amount of fat and it's in high quality and we know how to process our emotions, it leads to fat leads to us feeling stable and stable in our energy and our emotions. It adds to our sense of self-worth and safety in the body. And physically, we have hormonal balance, fertility, sexual desire, and sensual joy. Isn't that awesome? It means you need to be fat. You need to be fat. You don't need to be overly fat. You don't need to be having poor quality fat, but fat is the Divine Mother, and it's freaking sexy. Got it? So, avocados, ghee, olive oil, nuts, seeds, as much of a grass-fed Karma low meat as you can find. All those are going to lead to this being in right order and in right balance. Getting your Agni strong, metabolic health, reducing the toxins in the body that it's not our fault. We all have more than we can handle in this world. And getting your Oja strong is going to be the best protection from being overrun by Medas Dhatu. There's so much more I could say about this and I want to say, but to conclude, the Ayurveda path is not about being thin. It's about being what the teachings call lagu, light, bright, clear, and spiritually open and available. And so that's my mantra. I want to leave you with that. If you're like, OMG, homegirl Silicox is speaking my language, girl, don't wait. Because I'm going to be dead honest with you all. 2026 is the year to sign up for our school if you're not already in it. It's better than ever. For the price that you pay, it's banana sandwich cheap. I can say this with the most confidence because I have hundreds and hundreds of women write me and say, I signed up for Ayurveda school. I had no idea that I was getting a life manual that I will have with me for as long as I need it, and it's online, because this cannot be completed in 2 years. It's like the content is so dense. All of us are going to have this compendium for the rest of our lives. This is not just a health coaching certification platform. This is Lady Life School. I'm going to teach you how to increase your metabolism. I'm going to teach you how to reduce your toxins. I'm going to teach you how to increase your ojas, your vital immunity. And that's just the physical. We are going to help you remember your soul, your life's purpose and meaning, your creative, courageous, compassionate heart, your capacity to stay with yourself no matter what. This podcast is coming out in June, and Ayurveda school starts in January. And you might be thinking, oh, I have a ton of time. But the thing is, if you feel the nudge, please do me a favor, do my staff a favor, help us. Sign up now. Help us out, because what tends to happen is everyone waits, and every year we just wonder if it's going to happen again. And then we get hundreds of people that sign up last minute. And as a business owner, it's like I'm at a Las Vegas casino. Come on, guys. If you know that this is for you, don't doubt that inner voice. Sign up now. It's never going to be as cheap as it is right this moment. And when you sign up, shoot us an email. Tell us you heard the FAT podcast and it pushed you over the edge. And I will personally give you a shout out when I see you in level 1 2026, because this episode is like the essence of my heart. And if it's touched you the way that it's touched me, I want to know you. And I want us to look at each other face to face, because I know you're my sister. And when you sign up for Shakti School Level 1, it's going to be crazy. You're going to have a couple hundred people there with you. You're going to be like, oh my God, they also heard this podcast and were touched. And therefore, we're creating this community of like-minded, like-hearted women who, here's a central thing, who lift each other up. And guess what? We're not all the same. We are not all from the same political background. We are not from the same economic background. We do not have the same color skin. Sometimes we're not even from the same countries, because we have women from all over the world, and I am so proud of that. But guess what? We are very similar women, the women that are attracted to this school, because we're kind and we're loving to one another. And when someone has a win, we genuinely cheer her on. And so just know, if you're one of those women, we want you to be there in our Lady Life School. And if you're like, I hate this shit, then you probably really need to be there, because it's like, love is actually really cheesy. You know, I've had women that have been like, oh, Katie, when you talk, it triggers me so bad because you're so cheesy. But then, I realize that it's because I don't really love myself, you know? And we do a prayer every year before we start Shakti School, and it's this: may the women who need to find us, may they find us. And may the women who don't need to find us, may they not. And so for me, this isn't about just making as much money as possible. It's really about having the most authentically, radically courageous, cool group of women on the planet. And we're doing a really good job with it this year. So shout out Level 1 and Level 2 2025. All right, y'all, I'm rambling. I love you. If you're out there taking Ozempic, I adore you. We support you. I hope this podcast can be of support to you. Yeah, let's all develop healthy fat in 2025. Much love, you guys. A big special thanks to Kevin Carlisle of Goodbye Gemini, who wrote this beautiful podcast music, and to DJ Juan Pablo Jimenez in southern Spain for mixing it and making it magic.